Hello and welcome to the video. Patrick Bamford is very likely to miss the QPR match, and I am devastated. Daniel Farke's press conference was earlier, and there is a brand new potential injury scare for the Whites. So, what does this mean that the team looks like? What does it mean for the game against QPR? And how exactly are we going to react to all of that? Stick around to find out. But first, I would hugely appreciate if you could subscribe. I'm getting closer and closer and closer to that goal of 3,000 subs by the end of the season. It'd be hugely appreciated if you could help me get across that line. Thank you. But we do need to talk about the fact that Bamford is out, but also the fact that there is a question mark over the idea of Patrick Bamford being out. As Daniel Farke said in his press conference, Patrick is a big doubt. He got a big bruise to his knee, and I've seen a couple of people say it's just a bruise. Get over it. Get over it. It'll be fine. We need to win both of our games. And that is a fair point. But a little bit of me thought we need to look in a little bit more detail at this, because it's very often that a bruise isn't just a bruise. A bruise can be a little bit more than that, because at the end of the day, a bruise is your body bleeding internally to say, let's protect this little bit. And there's probably some potential further impact damage, whether that's to muscle, to bone, to ligament, all that sort of stuff. A bruise doesn't tend to just be the only thing that's there. And even then, we've seen players miss football games because of dead legs before, because if you're in pain, doing exercise is going to make it worse. And my main worry around Patrick Bamford is the number of times we've rushed him back from an injury to say, we need to win this game, only to get him re-injured in that match for months on end isn't something that I want us to repeat. I want to be really, really safe and make sure that we don't end up with a situation where, yes, we beat QPR, but we need to win on the final day of the season, and then suddenly we've not got Pat Bamford, and we've not got Dan James, and our attack looks a lot more blunt. But at the end of the day, we need to stress that he is a doubt, because in a later question, Daniel Farke did specify that if we were playing on Saturday or Sunday, he likely starts the game. So this tells me that him being a doubt rather than immediately ruled out, he could at least make the bench. He could even make the first team depending on how he goes today and tomorrow. It's going to be one of those questions that goes down to the final hour, to the final team sheet of will he make it or not. And in addition to that, we have some other potential injuries and points of discussion that we need to talk over. So in the last match, Sam Byram got a knock. Joe Rodon also got a knock. Neither of those are players that we want to necessarily lose because they're absolutely huge for us. But according to Daniel Farke, they should, emphasize should, because that's not a will, and I noticed that myself, still be available for the game against QPR. In addition to that, another player that we've got out is Dan James, who is currently working towards a return. If I remember right, Daniel Farke said they're working round the clock, 24 hours a day, to see if they can get him back in time for Southampton. He's going to miss QPR no matter what because he has a proper injury, but he's unlikely to make the final match. If he can make it, that'd be fantastic, but this is the kind of injury that takes 2 to 3 weeks to heal. We'd be giving him 12 days, so even if he did make it, he'd be on the bench as an option and at risk of re-injuring himself. I think Dan James, being the player he is in the category of, even if he's slightly hurt but can run on it going into that last day, he's going to demand that place on the bench. Because if he needs to, he will make an impact in that match. So we need to talk about what this all means. And it means that going into it, we will be missing Bamford's movement at the top. We saw him at his best in the match against Middlesbrough, where he's dragging centre-backs around the place, pulling them out of position. At one point, for that assist that Junior Firpo got on the Somerville goal, Bamford had dropped all the way back into our own third to be a part of that link-up play. And that is a key part of what he brings to this football team, in addition to when he finishes fairly consistently when he's on good form. Being on form is another one of these issues, because it's a bit of a pain if he can't play because he's working back towards it. We know when he gets goals, he gets them in big old batches over an extended period of matches. That rhymed. I didn't intend it, but let's see if it catches. I think after scoring against Borough, he'd be feeling in a really good mood against QPR, and that would carry over to Southampton, and that is key. So if he can play, I would love it, because he'd keep working his way back into that run of form. However, him being missing means that we could be in for an attacking rework. Not having Dan James on that right flank is a big issue, because Jaden Anthony can't necessarily play on that right-hand side. Somerville's always been better on the left. It means we're relying quite heavily on Willie Gnonto, and we need that little bit of creativity that Bamford offers to come from somewhere, so adjustments could be impending. And in addition to that, We need to remember that there are still some doubts for Byram and Rodon, so we might still need some adjustments towards the back. I am going to talk about my ideal lineup for the QPR match, but I'm going to assume that those defenders are still there, because assuming other than that would be absolutely terrifying for me. Going into this match, I still think that Illan Meslier is the best goalkeeper for the job. I know a lot of people saw the match against Middlesbrough and thought he's not good enough, or at least not good enough in the Premier League, and will keep making mistakes and might be the reason we don't go up, blah, 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 blah. Every goalkeeper is going to occasionally make mistakes. That's normal. That's natural. That happens. Fact of the matter is, conceding 3 goals against a Borough team where Latela has scored one of the nicest headers I've seen in a while that dips perfectly under the bar, that happens. It's normal. He's going to keep getting picked for the end of the season. There's no way that any sane manager would rotate him out at this point. In addition to that, the line in front of them, I've gone with Byram and Rodon still being in the side. There is potential for maybe Gray to drop in for Byram if it comes to it, if Byram isn't available, and that'd see probably Kamara come into midfield. But this is the perfect backline, in my opinion. Byram, Rodon, Ampadu, Firpo. Firpo especially has earned his place because 2 assists in the most recent match has put him on basically on a assists per game level with Leif Davis, which is absolutely incredible for a player that everyone thought we should have been selling in the summer. In front of them, I've gone Archie Gray and Ilya Gruev. Gray is really good at doing those sort of box-to-box runs that we don't necessarily see from Glenn Kamara. Got tons of energy and can often draw second defenders away from Crescencio Somerville in a way that Kamara doesn't. And Ilya Gruev is just really good in midfield, isn't he? He's good at breaking up play, stopping opponents from doing their thing. I think we have to keep him there. The line in front, I've gone completely unchanged. They absolutely balled out against Middlesbrough, so I'd love to see them keeping in exactly the same structure, same way of playing. Nonto, Ruter, Somerville, Ruter doing that little link-up thing that he likes to do, that he's gotten better at doing now. Somerville running at defenders until their legs fall off, and Nonto just quietly performing to an incredible standard. For the striker, if he's fit, I'm saying Patrick Bamford. Outside of Pat Bamford, I think I'm going to go Joel Piroux. He isn't the perfect profile for a striker. He doesn't match the Bamford one, and he does spook me a little bit at the top of the pitch. And I'll be honest, if Joseph had played more this season, I would probably go Mateo Joseph, but I still don't think it's the time for him to start matches. A lot of people are saying that if he's got it, he's got it. Or Archie Gray's younger and he's been starting, and that's the difference. That is the fundamental change between the two. Archie Gray is like if you take a 17-year-old, train them at, I'm going to pick an example, taking penalties for their entire lives, and then you put them into a standard game of football and say, take this penalty. They're going to be okay. The amount of pressure that has been piled on these last 2 football matches is very different. It's like taking that same youngster and saying, okay, that's fine, but your first penalty is at Wembley with 90,000 people watching, begging for you to score, even more at home. And if it goes wrong, your team might not get promoted. That's a hell of a lot to put on young shoulders. And Archie has had that build up into it. Archie has had the experience of playing a lot of football this season so far that Joseph hasn't yet. If he would have been playing a lot more earlier in the season, maybe we start him, but I don't think 2 games to go in a championship promotion run is a good time for Mateo Joseph to get his first start. But, and I know that this is going to be the main subject of the comments, I want to know what you think. Let me know in the comments down below what you think the changes should be to the side, if we need changes at all. How you think it'll be against QPR. I'm going to do my preview in the morning rather than right now, because I think this is news that I'd rather get out sooner, and I kind of like doing previews on the day of matches. And yeah, subscribe if you want. You could even become a channel member. All that revenue right now is going towards Prostate Cancer UK. It's a fantastic cause, so I'd hugely appreciate if you could donate what you can. Hope you enjoy the video, and I will see you later. Cannot believe that when Bamford gets back into form, he gets injured. I can believe it because it's happened, but it's just so typical. I want to keep loving you, Pat. Why do you make it so hard?